And you could take his contract, add either your own first pick or that Minnesota pick or both of them together and get a real top 20 asset, is my point.
Yeah.
He can be the contract in that trade that isn't that much of a poison pill because he's looked okay. You know, you still don't want to pay him $25 million a year, 27, whatever it is, but you know.
That's the part of it where I go, okay, you know, and the way it was explained to me was positionally fits better, small forward. Russell didn't really fit. And by the way, the guys of you that are out there dogging Steve Kerr because he didn't shit on D'Angelo Russell immediately, like, who are you? And some of these guys in the media that do this thing, man, where it's like, oh, the coach said he wasn't leaving, and then he left. Like, have you ever had a job that was important? Well, you know what you don't do? You usually don't just announce your could-be plans to everybody. And so Steve Kerr wasn't going to trade for Russell and go, yeah, you know what? It actually was just a way to kind of salvage the asset post-Durant. Don't really like him. Don't like his game. Think he's a little bit of a pig. Probably not a great fit with these three guards. Doesn't play defense. But, you know, hell, we gave him 4 years. Fuck it. Like, you know, and then when they trade him and they're like, hey, he's not as good of a positional fit. Like, Steve Kerr didn't betray you. Technically, he lied to you. But honestly, like, what kind of criteria are you asking these guys to follow? Like, they're not going to do the thing that you want them to do. It doesn't make any sense, especially with something that's this important. But every time I look at this trade, it's back to what you said. It's a lesson for everybody else. It's very clear that you have to look at any of the trades and any of these pieces here going, there's a version of this where we had zero, and now we have a contract, as you said, that would add up to somebody else, and we added an extra first-round pick.
And a guy with some pedigree who's still 24 and might have a chance to get to go up a notch with the right teammates. And I think the Harrison Barnes thing is a really good example. Harrison Barnes, he is who he is. He's a good teammate. He's not an all-star. He's, you know, somebody they were able to win the title with. I don't think he was.
Harrison Barnes gets 20 in a playoff game, you're not shocked.
Right. And I think that's what Wiggins can be. All right, next topic. What's worse for professional sports, the Houston Rockets or the Houston Astros?
Rockets.
Because they're fans?
By the way, you're going really hard at the Rockets, where I feel like you're kind of, you know, it's almost like you're taking my catchphrase here. Has Daryl suggested that you being around me is like, honestly,
like you've corrupted me?
Yeah, honestly, anybody that knows the two of us knows that we don't need the other one to convince us.
No,
like, we don't show up to work going like, hey, Bill, convince me into thinking something. But I got to imagine like Daryl's like, wait a minute, you now too? Like you're doing these Rockets
First
tweets?
of all, you and I have been on the record with Westbrook for a while. Second of all, I've been on the record my entire life as I hate unwatchable basketball. It's one of my passion points. I just don't like watching it. Now, the Rocket fans can do the whole, we're the villains now. We love to be the villains. Like, great. I'll see you in the playoffs because I'm definitely not watching you again during the regular season. I just don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy free throws. I don't enjoy three-pointers. I don't enjoy guys lurching into defenders trying to get calls. I think it sucks. I'm sorry. It's not for me. I mean, if it's a better way for them to win basketball games, so be it. But to me, this is like the freaking Devils, that stupid trap they did in the mid-90s. It was like, well, great.
Oh, wow.
You have a better chance to win.
Talk.
Yeah. They're the fucking Devils. It's like, okay, this is kind of working, I guess, but it makes me want to gouge my eyes out.
I can't believe we both knew about the trap from those mid-90s Devils teams.
I've never cared about hockey as much since that happened. That season.
Let me zag here for you here for a second, because I did this last week. Yes to everything, but as soon as they went small, we're like, this isn't going to work. It's actually working a little bit better than people thought.
Yeah.
When they took 1 million threes, everybody's like, that's not going to work. It worked. When they put Chris Paul on the team, everybody's like, that's not going to work. I didn't have a problem with it because you know how much I love Chris Paul, but most people were like, well, that's not going to work. And they made it work. They won 65 games. They almost beat the Warriors. Very well could have won a title. So whenever Houston does something different that everybody's like, that's not going to work, that's not going to work, it actually has worked a lot better than what everybody predicted. Can you go off of that and then have an open mind and be like, wait a minute, do I actually need to think that maybe instead of them being beat up physically, the disadvantage is that you don't get to play your bigs and that this thing is wide open now? Because Westbrook is, after the first start of the season where 3 months in, it was like the worst year of his career.
Yeah.
He is completely unlike. He's also taking, I think, 29 shots a game in February. But
it's tough to watch.
It's going better than people thought. It's going better than when that TNT graphic went up at that Lakers game and you're like, what are you guys going to do? And like, you didn't sign anybody.
Well, what it's shown is that at least if you're only playing them once, so you're going through your NBA schedule, you're playing the Mavericks one night, and then the Pelicans, now here come the Rockets, and they're playing this really crazy style that's unlike anything you've seen all season. And I think teams kind of get caught up in the chaos. It definitely happened to the Celtics last Tuesday, where they just completely fell apart. Yeah, they had no
Houston
offense.
Was great.
It was, and I think you have to credit Houston for that because the way they were playing made Boston completely lose their composure offensively.
Same thing with the Lakers.
Yeah. And like, the Lakers.
When I say Boston was terrible, I don't mean it like they did it to themselves. Houston did that to them.
Yeah,
it throws
question.
You off.
But here's my big but. We've seen this in a playoff series when somebody's doing a gimmick and somebody can see it over and over again over a 2-week span, they figure it out. And I think it's a gimmick, and I don't think it can work for 4 straight rounds. And the goal, especially when you've given away all your first-round picks and you're paying the money that they're paying for this roster, the goal is to win the title. They almost won the title 2 years ago. They had a good chance to at least make the finals last year. And they were a contender heading into this year. And now they're basically relying on a gimmick. And, you know, whether I hate watching it or not, I still think, I just don't think it's a good idea. And I'm not really sure why they did it. And I think the injury risk with Westbrook, Harden, the defense that they now have to play when those guys were really coasting defensively for a long time, not to mention all the burden they put on PJ Tucker. I just think it feels like a Hail Mary to me. And it might work for a couple weeks, but I just don't see it. So you think that
I know what I'm rooting for, because if they win the title, I'm going to move to Canada.
Well, so you think they're worse for professional sports than the Astros?
At least the Astros were fun to watch. Garrett Cole, that guy throws some smoke, man.
All right. New game we're going to play. We're going to do this every week on the Sunday Night Pods. In or out? I'm giving you 5 guys. You just tell me if you're in or out. Andre Iguodala, in or out? Right now. 2020 Andre Iguodala.
I believe he's been incredibly overrated in this whole pursuit of like what he brings, but I'm still in on him and what he. I think Miami needs a guy that's been around a little bit, because they, like, a lot of these guys are brand new for them.
I am right now out, but willing to be talked back in. I think he's too old. I don't like the long layoff. I thought he broke down the last 2 playoffs, and I'm not sure he's actually going to help them in the way they think. So right now I'm out. I really respect him. I think he's a future Hall of Famer, and I hope I'm wrong, and I'll get sucked back in the moment it looks like he's Andre Iguodala, but I just am not sure we're going to see that. Next guy, Al Horford, in or out?
Out.
I'm out too.
No one's ever been more in on this guy, by the way. Like, I've been one of his number 1 dudes for a long time, but it not only does he not fit with them, it doesn't work, and he looks worse. And I swear to God, I think they signed him to keep him away from guarding Embiid.
If he was on the Rockets, do you think he would be successful?
Yeah, because he can play in and out. You know, he's a great passer. He can shoot it enough for you to respect it. You know, they don't.
That feels
I don't
like
know
his
if they
destiny.
would change their. Yeah, I don't know what kind of screen stuff, how they would change it. Because I thought I read something about how little Houston's screening now, or maybe in the high screen with the 2 guys, but maybe they would change it around with Horford. But I want to see Ben Simmons play center for the Houston Rockets.
Oh, that would be amazing. Next one. The immediate 3-year future of the Brooklyn Nets. Are you in or out?
If I were homeless and Kyrie said you can stay with me, I'd be like, nah, I'm going to stay outside.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to take that as an out. I think I'm out too. I don't see it. I don't see the roadmap. I don't see how those two, I really have to be talked into that one. The KD thing, the him not playing for 18 months basically and coming back, trying to acclimate with Kyrie. It just feels like a lot of your turn, my turn. I don't see it. And especially
I don't
in the
like saying
East
that
that's
about
loaded.
Durant. You know, I don't want to say that about Durant. I like some of the pieces around him, but I feel like I've been saying that about some of the guys. I actually think they should probably look to move Dinwiddie. You'd heard his name come up a lot before the deadline.
Yeah.
And I like everything they're doing there. So part of this feels a little too anti-Kyrie-ish. But
yeah. Yes.
If I had to put, look at it, let me ask you it this way. If you had to put money on harmony and success, not necessarily an NBA title, because that's a tough thing to say, oh, you have to win an NBA title to be proven. But I'm talking like at the end of next year, they're one of the 4 or 5 teams you think could win a title. Harmony or, hey, you know what kind of sucks is playing with this guy after 2 years. What would be the safer bet?
That. Second.
Exactly.
I think Durant will be able to get back to 95% of where he was. The question for me is,
I don't doubt that. Yeah.
The question for me is whether Kyrie can be a guy who can play for 8 straight months anymore. And I just don't think we've seen it. Next guy, Aaron Gordon.
In when he's out of Orlando.
Could he be
I don't know.
Could he be a Draymond 5 on the right team?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would go for a Theo Ratliff 4.
Okay. I'm in as well. He was somebody I was really hoping would get traded. Last one, Landry Shamet. I'm out. I don't see it. I don't see it in a way where I think the Clippers are hoping he becomes, that 3-point shooter 2 that these contenders seem to have. And I don't see it. From when I watched him, I just have not been that impressed by him this year. It seems like he's a half step behind where the game is going. And I don't think can be in the top 7 of a championship team. So I'm out.
I'm in when I've watched them the past 2 weeks with the Paul George problems. Again, that's the hamstring injury. That's what we're going with here. I thought he was like the second most, granted Beverly hasn't played, but and it's, Montrez. But I thought he was the second or third most aggressive offensive guy out there. And I like that from somebody that's still this young. He's always been over 40% everywhere he's played from 3. He's about a 10-point guy, not a ton of rebounds, not a ton of assists. And I have a theory on Shamet that if he looked like Luther Vandross, he would have been a top 10 pick, and that he suffers from my theory of Shamet face. And just because his face looks the way it looks, and there's other players that suffer from Shamet face, that's why he went 26, because he's still too good of a shooter. And I think he finds his way. Like, you're anti him. Maybe I'm wrong here, but if Shamet looked different, he would have gone higher. And I think I trust him more than you do.
So you think if he looked like Omar Epps, we'd be talking about him totally differently?
Omar from The Wire, top 15.
You're not saying he's ugly though. You're saying there's something about his face that you don't. Yeah. It makes it when you're watching a basketball game, you don't trust him to come through.
No, it's not that. I think when you scout him, what's going on there? Derek White. Like, if Derek White just cleaned it up a little bit, I think people would be like, who's a good player is Derek White. I think he would have gone higher in the draft.
So
I was at the combine. I was watching Derek White at the combine. I'm like, oh, who's taking what's up with this guy? And then the Spurs take him. I'm like, oh, I guess he's going to be good.
So Hedo Turkoglu in the late 2000s, he had Shamet face, and it was hard to take him seriously. And all of a sudden, he's shooting Cleveland out of the Eastern Finals, and you're like, "What? That guy?"
Yeah, it's just you don't really know what it is until you know it, and it's not even like Turkoglu's a really good one.
You like this? You like this one, Kyle?
I've been a great time with this.
Shamet. Kyle's in on Shamet face syndrome. If anyone has any more Shamet face syndrome all-stars, you can email us at themailbag@theringer.com. We're going to try to do a theory of the week every week. So the rest of the way, we have 25 weeks left so one of us has to come up with a theory. So that was our first one, Landry Shamet face syndrome. He's to be fair, he's shooting 41%. He's making 2.5 threes. I mean, from 3, he's making 2.5 threes a game. He's 90% free throw, 3-point shooter. I get all of it. I get the whole package. I just think when we're actually in the playoffs, I think he's going to end up out there because he can shoot. And this goes back to my whole issue with the Clippers about who's their best 5. I think they're going to talk themselves into Shamet having to be one of the 5 guys that's out there in the last 5 minutes of a game. And I think it's going to be a mistake. That's my
Can
point.
I end on this